I'm going to make a video to definitely give my appreciation to female men's rights advocates. I do have more to say than that. I mean, there is kind of an asterisk to that. Because it's similar to the gun control debate that people have. Things are different in different places. I know Roma Army, Chloe Sunderland, Roma Army official, she's in Canada, and I'm here in the southeastern part of the United States. It's good to see someone standing up, especially women standing up for men, making sure they get a fair shake, and this includes Emily King, also Emily W. King. It's very much appreciated. It really is. But I do think there is a little bit more of a gray area. And let me give a little bit of an understanding of my position. You won't find too many men, who have been treated worse by women than I have. You won't. I'm not even remotely sexist or misogynist. I'm also not what some of the Andrew Tate style guys would refer to as a simp or something like that. I'm realistic. And I feel like my only real debate I think I would have with them, I think they would disagree with this notion. In my experience, most women's, well, I don't want to say most, I hate to give ratios like that. A lot of women's perspective of men is wrong. They seem to think, or seem to indoctrinate themselves to believe that all men are the same. I'm sure they'll agree with that they have that notion. And that all men are bad. And the misunderstanding is, less men are bad than they think, but more men are evil than they think. And what I would add to that is way more men are actually evil than women. And I say that being a man who has met some evil women. I mean, just about, they fall just slightly short of being on that series, Deadly Women. I have met some absolute sociopathic women, for sure. At the very least, do not care about men's feelings at all. Certainly didn't care about mine. But generally speaking, a lot of the women I've encountered just aren't what they should be. They're not complete people. Like, you go to the singles ads, and I've been on plenty of them, there's just nothing to them. There's no interest. There's no passion. There's no hobbies. They don't have any opinions of their own. You know, it's just either that or they're just all negative, just completely negative. Or they seem like they're trying to imitate the most toxic men you can think of. Usually like some sort of stereotype of men, whether it be redneck or, you know, like one of these rap cult type people or something like that. Or they're trying to be Harley Quinn or some nonsense. They don't really have an identity. And that's a problem. Don't really know what they want. They repeatedly try the same thing. Matter of fact, I actually worked with a young woman she's about a little bit 8 to 10 years younger than me. I worked with her years ago, and she actually went in. She was in relationships with men who you almost couldn't even tell apart. They're that similar. I mean, you'd have to look twice. It's like, okay, I think that one's a different one, but it's the same, but it's different. It's the same kind of guys. And you can't figure out, you know, it's like being in a toolbox. And you keep picking up the same socket and not understanding why it won't fit this time. It's because it's the same socket. There's more sockets in there. But for some reason, you keep picking up the same one and expecting it to work. And I think that's a lot of what a lot of women want to do. They're in this relationship with this person there's plenty of red flags. There's plenty of warnings. There isn't always, I will say that. I'm not blaming every single woman who ends up in a bad situation. But a lot of times especially down here, And that's kind of what I'm getting to in this. There's so many warnings. You could see this guy is terrible across a parking lot. And there's so many warnings, and she finally ends up, the relationship crashes, because of course it will. It's a giant man-child. He's awful. And she'll try to get another one just like him, hoping that it'll work this time. Doesn't make any sense. It's the weirdest thing. I mean, how many times would you buy the same exact model of a car and have it fail before you decide, maybe I need to try a different car? They just don't do that. And it's some of the failing these days is, I think, to begin with, singles ads are a dumb way of meeting people. It puts you on the wrong foot. You're starting off, first time you ever see anyone or communicate with them at all, it's with the possibility of a relationship overhanging it. It's strange. It's awkward. It's like meeting somebody the first time at a nudist beach or something. It's a little awkward. I guess it'd work for some people. But it's just an awkward way of meeting. But the problem here is this. I think the strongest relationships are built on friendship. But good luck being friends with them. And I'm speaking for my area mainly, and it may pertain to other areas as well. But you can't get to be friends with them. You can't. They take one look at you. If you're not you got to pass some sort of physical inspection, they won't have anything to do with you. I've had people say, well, they just don't know what kind of person you are. Okay, but how do you get that across when they won't have anything to do with you? And I think even if you do, and a lot of times they still won't have anything to do with you. That kind of brings up two different terms. There was a term when I was younger. I just turned 43 mid-March. When I was younger, there was something called Just Friends. And that went for a while because Mike Nelson of Mr. Science Theater, I think in a book he wrote, he mentioned this term. What it used to mean if a guy, let's say me as a kid, approached a girl and tried to get her phone number or something like that, whatever you do when you're younger, whatever ham-fisted way you do when you're younger, and she says, just friends. What that actually means is, don't ever communicate with her at all. She means, pretend like I don't exist. That's what that meant. So when I got a little older and I started hearing about this friend zone thing, I was like, oh, that's probably the modern term for just friends. Near as I can tell, and I have to guess because I've never been in a friend zone, near as I can tell, it's somebody who's generally friends with someone and one of them wants more. Which leads me to believe that was the game the whole time. And that's not a real friend. So it's kind of a delicate line to walk, because you're trying to, a relationship is built through friendship. But if somebody is just friends with you, I mean real friends with you, and you try to move it past that, you've betrayed the friendship. It's extremely difficult. It's complicated. So there's probably some kind of gray area there as well. But that's two different terms right there. I think it's pretty sick how there's a lot of men who have sort of betrayed that sort of thing. But again, these same women, at least in this area, you won't be in a friend zone if you don't look right. If you don't match what the appearance is. And by the way, it isn't just a weight thing. It's strange in this area. Because when I say that, you look at me and be like, well, he's overweight. And I can tell you I'm not 6 feet tall. You think, oh, well, it's that. No, you could even be fat. It's like if you're one of these big fat rednecks who just acts, it's like they're looking for someone who's normal. What they decide is normal, this narrow view of normal. And they probably don't prefer the guy to be fat, but I've seen plenty of fat, loudmouth rednecks that do pretty good in relationships. And that's always a head scratcher for me. Anybody who's different, they say all men are the same. And yet, if you act different, it scares them and they won't have anything to do with you. And that's when you get into the category of you'll see some men advising, oh, don't be too nice to a woman. I'm not playing that game. I don't care what it does. I don't care if I spend the rest of my life alone. I'm not playing this. I'm not playing into the weaknesses. But I do kind of have to point out, and I'm kind of being long-winded about it, that as I was saying, I appreciate these advocates, but I really think some of it, I've watched some of their videos, and I'm like, yeah, this is true of me that she's talking about. But I feel like they might end up taking the wrong side for, you know, some of these men. And they're awful down here. I'm sure these two here that I've named, and I'm sure there's others that they could even suggest you follow them as well. And I follow both of them, by the way. I'm sure that... I lost my train of thought. But anyway, they seem smart enough to where they should be able to tell that these men are bad men. I would hope that they would. I would hope so. I would hope they wouldn't be sitting there giggling at their little antics as well. And that's not to say, you know, I'm not a boring person. But these guys, they're just disturb the peace and chew the scenery, and all attention has got to be on them. Sometimes they walk into a room just making noises, just so everybody turns and looks at them. They're just huge children at best. And that's my only concern, you know. As much as I appreciate them, I do have to wonder about that. And, you know, sometimes guys like me end up falling I end up being in a bad category in every category, a bad position. You know, I'm not either political party. And even then, as far as the third parties go, I'm not a home run on either being socialist or libertarian either. So I end up sort of pissing everybody off. I don't have any real advocates myself because I agree with them, but I do have that concern. And that I'm sure they probably have some followers that are followers of people like Andrew Tate. And I would hope that they wouldn't want that. I would hope they wouldn't. And forget all the awful things that Tate has been accused of. Even leaving those things aside, he's terrible. He's awful, awful person. And I would hope that they would be able to notice that. And it just scares me that, you know, some of these type of guys around here who finally start getting some sort of comeuppance from the way they treat women, that and then obviously make it harder for guys like me. I would hope that they wouldn't look for them for comfort. And I'm afraid that might be happening. I'm afraid some of these guys, because this is the funny thing about it, these guys that get women more actually don't like them. And that's another thing that's going on down here. A lot of the women in this area, and I won't say a ratio, and I won't say outside of this area because I don't know, but there does seem to be a movement of women hating other women. And that kind of worries me with them too. I don't believe that's the case, but it worries me. It would be easy to sort of move that over to that. And that's how these women end up in these relationships with these kind of men. They actually look for men who hate women. And I don't know if they think, well, he's unlikely to cheat on me because he hates other women and I'm the only one he likes. No, he doesn't like you either. And they can't figure that out. But that's just some of my concerns. I do overall want to express that I'm very thankful for them and what they do, and I'm proud to follow them. Doesn't mean I agree with every single word, but it's something like that is needed. I just worry because it's a narrow path to walk, and I don't know if they know that. You know, I know I'm not trying to talk down to someone because they're younger than me, but they're both younger than me, I'm assuming, or they're doing something I'm not doing. But I worry that they might step over into the wrong category here. You know, I wouldn't want them to end up in the category, a group of people who hate women. I wouldn't want them to end up in defending these men who are awful and make it worse for other men. And in a manner of speaking, that's a weak excuse at best, you know, because no matter how people treat you, it don't give you the right to treat other people bad who happen to look like them. You know, that's where racism, prejudice, and like that, everything like that comes from. It doesn't give you the right to judge someone who hasn't done you wrong. But at the same time, that is sort of a tendency that people have. And that's just sort of a little bit about myself. And again, you know, expressing my support for them, but some of my concerns also. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm not sort of name dropping them to get more follows. That's a possibility also. Hey, you got to make a living somehow. But, you know, hopefully at some point I can actually manage my time better. At some point I can have some sort of conversation with them. I know Chloe has got some sort of setup where you can actually talk to her. At least there was. But it'd be interesting, have an interesting conversation. And maybe she can get something from this also. But I think she visited someplace in the United States here recently. I would kind of like her to get some sort of experience just as a witness to how things are here, because I think it could add some sort of nuance. I don't know where Emily King's from. But as I said, I don't want her to automatically take the men's side. I get where she's coming from, and I appreciate it. God knows guys like me need that. But you got to be careful. You really have to be careful, because I'm sure some of these guys will be standing right there listening, like, yeah, no, not you. So anyway, thanks to both of them. I highly recommend following them. Definitely worthwhile. Gives you a different perspective. I mean, it's good hearing it from men also, but it's sort of a bias. When they're doing it, there's no bias. You know, they don't have to do this. You hear it from me, you know, I would hope you would think my opinion is valid, but you don't know. I could sit here all day. That's why I don't refer to myself as a good guy. You know, that's got sort of tainted these days anyway, but you only got my word on that. I'm not a public figure. I may get more public as time goes on, but you only got my word for it. I don't have any arrests or anything like that, but you don't know me from Adam. I could be just like the guys I'm talking about. But as I said, they don't have to do this, and they choose to. And that's very big of them to do that. So thanks to them, and maybe we can sort of have some sort of conversation from that, or it can add some sort of nuance to it. I don't even know if I've been thorough enough in this. It's just kind of a first draft, and I don't sit here and write stuff out. I often remember things I need to say after I've stopped the video, but that's just for starters for now, and I might end up having to do like a part 2 or something more thorough to that, as usual.